Do you have fingernails left? I got 0 fingernails left.
This is Tyler Hansbrough, and you're listening to Locked On Tar Heels.
You are Locked On Tar Heels, your daily podcast on the UNC Tar Heels. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey there, what's up? It's Saturday, January 4th, 2025. Welcome to this live postcast edition of the Locked On Tar Heels podcast, the only daily North Carolina show out there. I'm your host, Isaac Shade. You're joining me at the place to get your Tar Heels content every single day. It's all part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I want to give a special shout out and welcome to our everydayers who are joining us. Of course, our Locked On Tar Heels insiders and Discord family. It's good to be together. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here, but it's not too late to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can finish the regular season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet hits. Visit FanDuel.com right now to check it all out. Okay, North Carolina survives 74-73 at Notre Dame. How? Yeah, exactly. I don't know about you, but it crazy. But look, Carolina gets the win somehow, some way, and that's what ultimately matters is a W, not an L. Tar Heels are 9-6 overall, now 2-1 in ACC play. I apologize that we're coming at you pretty late here on Saturday. We'll give you a little peek behind the curtain of my life today. I actually had a wedding that I was officiating Saturday afternoon. So I got to watch live the first half of the game, had to go officiate the wedding and be part of the reception and everything. Got home, watched the second half, ate all my fingernails, and now here we are. So apologies for not being able to go live right after the game, but just still wanted to be able to get together here on Saturday evening. Hope that you had a great day. Let's get right into it. Here's how we do these postcasts. If you're new to it, if so, thank you and welcome in. So glad you're here. We just unpacked several takeaways that we had from the game, kind of big picture. Sometimes we'll dive into the nitty gritty, but we'll save a lot of that nittiest of grittiest stuff for when we get back into things on Monday into the regular season, but don't like to miss the opportunity to talk after a game over the weekend as well. We'll have a couple of ad reads. If you guys have questions and observations, we'll get to those later in the show. Okay, here we go. Look, I know that we want to get to the end of the game and that whole closing sequence and everything that it entailed and what went into it, but good grief. I feel like we have to start with Ian Jackson because if not for him, I do not know what Carolina or where Carolina would be right now. This dude is on an absolute heater. Does he have things to work on? Absolutely. Had 4 turnovers in this game. There's some defensive things to continue to work on. Had some nice defensive moments in this game. But Ian Jackson, another career high, 27 points, becomes the first Tar Heel since Tyler Hansbrough, the number 1 all-time leading scorer at Carolina, for a freshman to get 4 games in a row of 20-plus points. I don't care what it is. Anytime you can be mentioned as doing the same thing as number 50, you have done something impressive. Really, really great stuff from Ian that we're going to have to keep talking on. By the way, when he got to 20 points, it was on a beautiful transition lob from RJ Davis. When you saw back behind the play, you saw Ian point up, RJ caught him, boom, threw it down. What I love about Ian Jackson, I was thinking about this during the game. While a lot of the Tar Heels, I feel like, have a conscience, and I don't mean that in like terms of morality. I mean in terms of the basketball court of like thinking through shots and like, I shouldn't take this 3. I should whatever when it's an open 3. With Ian, man, 0 conscience. I know that I'm a phenomenal offensive player, and I know that my team needs me to take these shots, so I'm going to take these shots. And I love that he will go out and do that, man. It is wild and it's impressive. And it was just play after play in this game. He had 15 of Carolina's first 26 points, had 27, had 17 by halftime, and then just kept going. I mentioned his some defense that he had that was strong. There was a play in the second half, the play that got him to his 27th point and his new career high. Had some great individual defense on Notre Dame's Matt Aloko. staying vertical, staying straight up, forces a tough, difficult shot. He himself gets the rebound, coast to coast, game-tying layup at 66, and that's what gave him his new career high. Like, it's that sort of stuff. It's not just the willingness to take the shots. It's not just him getting to the free throw line. It's doing stuff like that, man, like willing to take on that defensive assignment against the guy that in Markus Burton's absence has been Notre Dame's de facto point guard, doing it, getting the defensive stop, getting the rebound, and then going and scoring, man. Ian Jackson is doing it all for Carolina right now. His line for this game, let me get back to it, 27 points. What I love is it's another efficient shooting day, 11 of 18 from the field, not quite as efficient from three, 2 of 7, 3 of 5 from the free throw line, did have that one empty trip to the free throw line, but also 6 rebounds. Ian's rebounding has come up in this stretch that he's been on. He had jumped his rebounding from 3-something a game to 4-something a game. This is going to even grow that. 6 rebounds in this one, 1 assist. I already mentioned it. He did have 4 turnovers. You're going to have that sometimes with the freshman, and especially when he's got the ball in his hands as much as he does. Ian Jackson played more minutes than anyone on the team in this game, more than RJ. Yes, 38 minutes. Also contributed a block and a steal. Ian Jackson, man, what he's doing for Carolina right now is so wildly critical for this team to have the success that they are having, whatever level of success that would be. All right, let's talk about the end of the game. North Carolina gets down 4 to Notre Dame. I forget which point that was when it was 4. Let me scroll back up in my notes here. Ian Jackson answered to get it back to 2, but then right after that, Carolina had turnovers on 3 of the next 4 possessions, and eventually what I thought is a shot that's going to be perhaps forgotten to a lot of people from this game, but Notre Dame goes up 64-61. Drake Powell gets the ball on the corner, or out on the wing, I guess it really would have been. And same as we talked about with Ian and no conscience, just gets it up, and it's like tying shot at 64. And Carolina had to have that. I was starting to worry there that was a moment where Notre Dame was going to kind of run away, and really proud of Drake for getting that. I mean, he took 6 threes. That was the only one he made. And so him being 0 for 5 from 3 at that point and still taking that shot late in the game was maybe one of the most critical shots of the entire game. So really, really big and important there. Then Elliot, that was around 5 minutes or so. Elliot Cadeau picked up his 4th foul with 4 minutes and about just under 5 minutes to go. Elliot's had some foul troubles again lately, so he has to go out there. Eventually comes back in and had some really, really critical moments late. There was, a bunch of other action that happened, but we get to the final 30 seconds. North Carolina's down 3. And you worry that somebody's going to take a 3, and that basically, if it goes in, great. But if not, that basically ends any hope of things. And so Carolina needed to just go get to the rim after that, because actually Notre Dame was up 3, had the ball, and Jay Wash had a great defensive possession, was able to force Burton into a turnover. But what was critically important is Elliot Cadeau made such a wise decision here to not jack up a 3, gets all the way to the rim and scores. And Carolina really, really, really needed that. But now 71-70, 21 seconds left. Carolina traps, can't get a steal. Ultimately, RJ has to foul. It's his 4th. Fouls Matt Aloko, who makes both. It's now 73-70. And you're wondering at that point, there's 14 seconds left. It's probably time to go ahead and take a 3. And it looks like that's what Carolina is going to do. Ian floats around outside the arc a little bit, gets it back to Elliot. And same as we've talked about with Ian, same as I said about Drake Powell, Elliot, who at times has been reticent to shoot these 3s, who had hit one earlier in the game, I might add, takes his 3 from out on the wing, and Aloko, who we just talked about, made those free throws right before, jumps into him, like doesn't give him the landing area he needs. Shot goes in, Elliot is fouled, and Carolina's tied with Cadeau going to the line. And it's nice. It's less pressure. Like in moments like that, who was it? There's another team somewhere in the country earlier this week that had a similar scenario, but was going to take this one free throw. Oh, it was Gonzaga. had that one free throw and needed it to tie the game. Thankfully, this game was already tied. So that takes some pressure off of Elliot Cadeau, who sinks this free throw to give Carolina a 74-73 with 4.8 seconds left. And we all know about 4 seconds on the clock, right? Yikes. And there's no question who's getting this ball. It's Markus Burton. He's going to go all the way to the rim. Great of Carolina to force him to go back toward the baseline to get it. But then he basically gets to the rim. Nobody really slows him down, alters his direction. Elliot gives him a wide berth. And Elliot tries to stay vertical there on that very last play. I got to be honest. I thought the refs could have called a whistle or blown the whistle on that play, called a foul. They chose not to. Burton misses pretty close, but Elliot was doing his best to stay straight up. Yes, Notre Dame gets the putback, but it's after the buzzer, and thankfully Carolina escapes. And that's the deal. Ultimately, this is another game you look at and it's like, man, did Carolina deserve to win this? I don't necessarily know that they did, despite a great first half. We'll get to that in a little bit, but it's a win. It is a win. The Tar Heels are 2-1 in ACC play, and now you get to go home and breathe a little bit easier because you did get this win. So lots more to talk about. We've gotten to Elliot, we've gotten to Ian. I want to talk about RJ Davis's impact on this game, how critical it was, and look at Jaylen Washington. Is he starting to come on a little bit? Carolina could sure use a big man to do something helpful. And I thought Jay Wash had some moments on Saturday. We'll look at that and more in just a second. Right after I tell you about our good friends at FanDuel. The NFL playoffs are almost here. This is the last regular season weekend. It's not too late, though, to get in on the regular season action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Because right now, new customers can finish the season strong with $250 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Man, I love FanDuel. They got so many different neat ways that you can pick up a W. Unfortunately, Carolina, man, they've really fallen off in the ACC regular season champion odds. Duke leads the way at -330, followed by Clemson, Pitt, and then Carolina at +1,600, and then SMU, who Carolina hosts on Tuesday, at +1,900. It's going to be another tough game. So if you want to get in on that action, maybe some stuff for the last week of the NFL regular season tomorrow, Sunday, or maybe you want to get in on some more of the CFP action. More games coming up this week. You can do that all at FanDuel.com, where you have a chance to get $250 in bonus bets. Go check it all out at FanDuel.com. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Okay, let's keep talking about this. I do want to go now talk about some RJ Davis. One of the things that I really appreciated about what RJ did in this game is similar to Louisville. It was a long time in the Louisville game before RJ scored, but in this one, it was a long time before he even took a shot. And a big part of that is because it was pretty clear to me that RJ was looking to facilitate and distribute. And man, was he doing that beautifully. Finishes the game with 7 assists against just 1 turnover. By the way, I forgot to mention about Elliot, but he had a nice floor game as well. 6 assists and just 1 turnover. So RJ and Elliot combined for 13 assists, 2 turnovers. Every game, I need that from these two dudes. But RJ, in the first half, finishes with 5 assists and no turnovers, just 2 points. And look, while Carolina needs his scoring, if RJ can set up his teammates well, take care of the ball, which he's always going to do, or I say always, he had a bunch of turnovers last game, more often than not is going to do. That's what Carolina could really use from him. Called his own number a little more in the second half, where he had 2 assists and a turnover and was 2 of 6 from the field. But for the game, interestingly, RJ only took 3 3-point attempts, didn't make one. It's just odd. It's so odd. 3 of 9 for the game, 8 points. So I love RJ Davis being more of a facilitator distributor, especially as Elliot is trying to find his way back into that as well. Speaking of RJ Davis scoring points, he passes Armando Bacot in this game to be the second all-time leading scorer at North Carolina. Really, really good for RJ and his career. I want to talk Jaylen Washington. In this game, 8 points, a perfect 3 of 3 from the field, a perfect 2 of 2 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 2 of which were offensive, did have 4 turnovers. Let's admit that. But also 5 blocks and a steal. Phenomenal stuff from Jaylen Washington. Would you like to see more from him? Yes. But by more, I mean more points, more shot attempts, right? I would rather that be, even if it wasn't perfect, rather than 3 of 3, I would rather it be like 6 of 7 or 7 of 9 or something like that. I'd like to see Carolina get to him more. Had more I talked about after the Louisville game, he had some really strong moments and he had some other like kind of weak moments. And I thought that showed up here again today against Notre Dame. Had a monster dunk, had some other, I thought, really strong rebounds where he went up and said, "This is my ball. None of the rest of you will have it." And that was critical, but had some other moments like, just either had the ball taken away from him or wasn't strong. There was a play where there was kind of a loose ball. He fell on the floor, did a nice job getting the ball. But then I thought he wasn't quick enough to react or find a teammate and just do something, allowed Notre Dame to tie it up and get a jump ball. That said, I was encouraged by what I saw from Jaylen Washington. I love that Coach Davis gave him 23 minutes in this game. It shows that maybe there's some more growth and trust because, usually we've been looking at the front court guys and they've been, 15-ish minutes, all of them. Not in this game. Jaylen Washington dominates the minutes for the front court. As you well know, again, no Seth Trimble in this game. It's now 3 games in a row the Tar Heels have been without him, the Campbell game, and then these last 2 ACC games at Louisville and at Notre Dame. And yet again, critically, North Carolina, yes, needed his athleticism on the offensive end, but wildly needed him on defense. On Wednesday against Louisville, it was Chucky Hepburn, who Carolina had absolutely no answers for, nothing to do. And then in this game, one of the things I had said on yesterday's preview was that Markus Burton had been out for quite some time for Notre Dame, hadn't played a second yet. And because a lot of times you start easing a guy back in on a little bit of a minutes restriction, kind of like you would send a pitcher down to single A to just start getting some rehab assignments. Nothing like that from Markus Burton. So there's really no indication that he would play today until Saturday morning. And heard the news, I think I saw John Rothstein talking about it first, who's one of CBS Sports' great college basketball writers. And knowing that Seth was probably going to be out again today, I got immediately concerned. Because remember, Markus Burton is the reigning ACC freshman of the year. Notre Dame had looked really good, or, much improved, I guess is a better way to say it, in their games before he went out. Yes, coming into this game, Notre Dame on the season was 7-6, but almost, I think 5 of those losses had been without him. And I think they were 4-1 before he went out. And that's just I know we look at Notre Dame's record and it's like, man, we should have slaughtered them. Yeah, but Markus Burton came back and that's a different story, especially when you do not have Seth Trimble. Burton in this game finishes with 23 points on 7 of 14 shooting, 9 of 10 at the free throw line, ended up playing 23 minutes. And that's exactly what I expected to happen, especially with no Seth Trimble in the lineup. So again, critically, I believe Carolina beats Louisville with Seth Trimble because he's able to probably cut Chucky Hepburn's points down by 10. So much of that was Chucky Hepburn getting to the free throw line. It was 16 of 20. Seth Trimble would not have allowed that to happen. Markus Burton, so many points, 23 points. Again, a bunch of trips to the free throw line. That simply does not, he gets some of that, but not all of that with Seth Trimble in the lineup. It's just a fact of what Seth Trimble can do. So Carolina getting this win without him is critical, but you really feel like they probably would have been now 3-0 in the ACC with the healthy Seth Trimble. Carolina should not rush him back. I will never advocate for doing something that might jeopardize a player's health or safety. That is completely inappropriate. Health and long-term, physical and mental fitness are infinitely more important than a basketball game. I just bring it up to say, Carolina, you see the big hole that is missing without Seth Trimble. Hey, first half deficit. How about this? For the first time all season, the Tar Heels did not get into a major deficit against a high major opponent. Just as a reminder, before today, every high major opponent and Dayton that Carolina had played, they had gotten into a hole of at least an 8-point deficit in the first half. Carolina's biggest first half deficit today was 3, and that's when the score was 4-1. So thankfully, finally, Carolina came out ready to go. And you know where I thought it was most critically evident? On the defensive end of the floor. North Carolina held Notre Dame under 1 point per possession in the first half. They forced them into 8 turnovers. I mean, man, it just looked so much better. And it was just, frankly, the activity on the defensive end was so much of this. I think that one of the things that's helpful is Carolina and Notre Dame match up a little bit better size-wise than some of what Carolina has faced this season. And yes, Notre Dame still shot 40% from the field in the first half, but Carolina held them to 25% from 3 in the first half on 16 attempts. Really important there. And let me check. And, to the flip side, if I remember correctly and my notes are accurate, in the first half, not only did Carolina not get into a major deficit, they got up to as big as a 12-point lead in the first half. Now, obviously, that was at 26-14. As we well know, Notre Dame cut that down to 7 by halftime and kind of came out guns blazing in the second half. And again, I think so much of that run, they had a 12-0 run, 15-2 extended run, and so much of that was Markus Burton coming back in. And sometimes you just got to tip your hat, especially when you don't have a Seth Trimble to help out. That said, great to see Carolina not have their stereotypical first half woes, and in fact, to do something they haven't done literally all season against a high major opponent. That said, now the bugaboo is starting to become how Carolina finishes a game. All season long, they've done so well in the second half, but there's been so many examples of like Kansas, Florida taking a lead in the second half, coming back from this big deficit, and then ultimately falling off. Some of those are what happens when you have to come back and expend all that energy. But now in back-to-back games, obviously we don't need to rehash the complete collapse against Louisville on Wednesday, but that's what happened down the stretch. In this one for Carolina, held that big first half lead, cut it to 7, Notre Dame did at the half. But then even through the early parts of the second half, Carolina kind of kept the Irish at bay, held them off. Notre Dame would get a bucket. Carolina was responding. And then they just went on a run, and Carolina had no defensive answer for what was happening. Now, kudos and credit to the Tar Heels for fighting back, because Notre Dame gets the lead. And Carolina, as we talked about earlier, ultimately found a way to do it. Now, part of the issue down the stretch was Carolina had a big part of what we've talked about is the Tar Heels got to find ways to value possessions and take care of the basketball. If I remember correctly, there was a stretch around the 5-minute mark where Carolina had turnovers on 3 of 4 possessions. And when you're having empty trips and you're trying to hold on to a lead on the road, I don't care whether it's Notre Dame or Duke or Auburn, turnovers are going to kill you. And that's just not what's going to work for the Tar Heels. They got to be better there, unfortunately. I'm looking in real time. I hadn't realized this. Carolina has struggled a lot this year in layups, 10 of 12 in this game. Really, really good there. And one of those missed was a Jalen Withers dunk. I can't think of what the other missed layup. Elliot Cadeau had one, if you recall. Is pretty similar to the missed layup at the end of regulation against Michigan State. So that's probably the 2 missed layups, if my brain is pulling that correctly, the missed Jay Witt dunk and the missed Elliott layup. So there it is. Other than that, Carolina, really nice job finishing when they got to the rim in this game, and that's not always been the case this semester. All right. Do you want to go check out your questions and comments and let you have a voice in today's show? Because that's always part of what we like to do. I want to get to all that coming up here after one more ad read. Which comes from our friends at Rocket Money. Look, have you used Rocket Money, which is an app from Rocket Mortgage, man? It's so helpful in helping you find subscriptions maybe you forgot about, you're paying double, and getting rid of them. It's happened to multiple people I know of, and Rocket Money has stepped in and helped lead the way, helps make it easy to track it down. It's almost like a digital personal finance assistant. And that's what Rocket Money does. It's a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your subscriptions, monitor your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, one-stop shop, and love it. Whether that's subscriptions, your spending habits, even the goals you want to achieve in this brand new 2025. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved a total of $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all of the app's premium features. So cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go check it all out at rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Do that today. Again, rocketmoney.com/lockedon. All right, gang, great to see some of our good friends in the chat today. The Nintendo Nerd gets the first win. And our friend Nintendo Nerd says, if we continue to not be able to put together 2 complete halves, it's going to be difficult to win against, Nintendo Nerd says, better teams, but any team. Heck, we needed a hope and a prayer to beat Notre Dame, who isn't great. This is a great point from Nintendo Nerd. Carolina this year has had some really great second halves, as they missed in the first half and they had dug such a big hole. They either couldn't come back or expended so much energy coming back that they just kind of flopped down the stretch. Or games like today or Louisville. Or, well, I guess really today they put together a really, I was really pleased with the first half. I would imagine you were too. And then ultimately just didn't have that same level of poise, that same level of execution of defensive intensity in the second half, and it allows Notre Dame to come back and have a half. But hey, you know what? A win is a win is a win. And how critically important, remember, we talked about this game. If Carolina loses it, your NCAA tournament hopes aren't gone, but they're starting to fade. This would be your first Q2 loss, and you just can't take things like this. So there it is. And to this point about all this, Cameron Chestnut says, well, Isaac, you wished for a good first half. You know what? I got that good first half. Thank you for reminding me, Cam. They had it. I guess I should have wished for a good 40 minutes, a great 40 minutes, and that would have been what Carolina needed in this game. I realized I haven't looked at Carolina's three-point shooting yet. Under 30% again, 6 of 21. Goodness gracious. Tar Heels got to get better there. Okay, let's keep looking. Nintendo, let me give Nintendo another word here. He says, if Ian continues to rise like this, he'll compete with Flagg for ACC Rookie of the Year. Look, this is realistic. This is not off at all. Think about, yes, Cooper Flagg is very solid. He's got a great complete game, but he's put together nothing like what Ian has done. If you'll bear with me in real time, let's go look at Cooper Flagg's biggest scoring performances, because let's be honest, that is the thing most voters are looking at. I think there will be some that are just going to vote for Cooper Flagg because it's Cooper Flagg. That's frustrating. But because of Cooper Flagg's other great teammates, that might split some of the votes amongst them. All right, let's pull it up here. Points. You know what? He's done more than I thought. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 20-point games. That's really impressive. Including 26 against Kentucky in that they lost that game. He had those turnovers late. So, man, you know, I oversold that a little bit, I guess, but Nintendo is ultimately right. Ian is going to be right there in the conversation if he keeps that going. So there it is. Some J-Wash love from guys like Shadalac, that's Michael Shadron, and Nintendo just saying, hey, look, if he can cut back on some turnovers and other things like that, man, it's going to be really, really important. David Bird asks, why are we so soft in the middle? Washington and Withers need to step up their game there. That's a great question, David. I mean, there isn't really like a bulky player that Carolina has, like an Armando, to do that. They've got some length, right? Like Jay Wash has length, Jay Witt has length. Ty Claude, unless I'm misremembering, did not play at all in this game, not a single minute. James Brown did get in. How many minutes did he play? 3 minutes in the first half. Did some nice things, kept either had an offensive rebound or kept it alive and then had another. I guess I could look and tell you if he had an offensive rebound. He wasn't credited with anything, but I feel like he kept multiple balls alive on one offensive possession. No points, but look, 3 minutes is going to help. Carolina has to get more, what I'll say, rugged in the post. There are times like just find ways to be an imposing figure. We're gonna have to keep harping on Carolina's misses in the front court this offseason. I know people are tired of hearing the storyline, and I'm tired of talking about it, but it is such a critical factor in the makeup of this team and its inability to be as complete as they otherwise could. So I'm not going to quit talking about it because it's got to be something that is fixed ahead of next year. This team is what this team is. We're going to have to deal with that. So that means guys need to step up, to David's point here about being stronger. Speaking of defense, we talked some there about that in the paint. I've talked quite a bit about, I wish Carolina would just show some wrinkles on defense. Notre Dame gave a great example of that today. Second half, their very first defensive possession out of the locker room was zone. I think it was 2-3 if I remember correctly. It definitely wasn't a 1-3-1. But that is like that kind of wrinkle that I want from Carolina, because them showing that, even though I don't remember another zone possession the rest of the game, but them doing that right out of the locker room just puts some doubt probably in Carolina's mind of like, are we going to have to navigate that? Now, Carolina scored off of that. RJ got to the rim to the right side and got a layup there. In fact, each of Carolina's first 3 buckets of the second half were different players. So that's great. But Carolina, I would like to see those wrinkles from Carolina just sprinkled in here and there. Nintendo. I missed this. This is a great poll from Nintendo. Funny enough, that shot from Elliot, meaning the shot at the end of the game that put Carolina up by 1 after the free throw, was eerily similar to the shot he narrowly missed against Kansas that would have tied the game. My man, that is a great pull, Nintendo. And it was on the near side of the court across from the benches against Kansas, like the last shot of the game, out on that right wing. That one missed. This one didn't, plus the foul. Love seeing him come back and get that here. All right, guys, we need to get out of here. I know everybody's got all sorts of stuff to get to on this Saturday night, but still wanted to be able to have a show and get together despite not being able to do it right out of the gate after the game. Thanks for bearing with me. We will be back on Monday with a more full recap. We'll unpack the women's game that is Sunday, hosting Notre Dame. And the Notre Dame women, if you're not aware, are phenomenal this year. So just get ready for that. Make sure you tune in. If I remember correctly, that's 1 o'clock tomorrow on ESPN. Hannah Hidalgo is an absolute stud for Notre Dame. Man, I'm excited for that game. It's in Carmichael. If you're local, get to that game. Anyway, Monday we'll recap all of that. Tuesday, we'll get ready for hosting SMU Tuesday night. Hopefully Seth Trimble will be back. SMU, newcomer to the ACC, but they are a good, solid squad in the top 5 of the ACC right now in the net rankings. And then that night, we will go live. After that game, we'll recap it as well on Wednesday. So another good week coming up. And then next Saturday, a week from today, Carolina is in Raleigh at NC State. Critical game. Carolina's got to go get that dub. All right, guys. Nail biter, but we got the win. And ultimately, that's what matters. Lots to learn, lots to keep growing from. And Carolina will hopefully build on all of that. All right, guys, if you haven't subscribed to the show on video and audio, make sure you do that so you don't miss a second of Locked On Tar Heels. We're still trying to get to 10,000 subscribers. In the first 3 years of the show, we're about 450 away. We got to hit it by the end of February. Would you subscribe to the show on YouTube right now if you haven't already done so? If you haven't joined the Locked On Tar Heels Discord or Insiders, man, we'd love to have you there. Those links are both in the show notes. A great way to go deeper with the show. And the Insiders program is a great way to help support the show and help allow me to keep bringing you this content every single day. All right, gang, it's always a great day to be a Tar Heel, especially after a dub. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend. We'll talk again on Monday. But until then, peace.